Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the NFL podcast. We didn't have a guest, but then we found a guest. One man stepped forward and said, I will be this week's guest. You might recognise him, you might have heard his name before, you might have heard his voice before. I won't spoil it, but you know. If you are checking us out on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud or wherever, do subscribe, like, share and comment, because it's awesome. It really is. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the Laces Out podcast.
Recording in progress.
There you go, you see. She knows what time it is, and these guys know what time it is. It's NFL podcast time, Laces Out podcast, Yorkshire's #1 NFL podcast, official. For you audio listeners, you'll be able to enjoy the sultry voices of the two gentlemen I've got here with me right now. My co-host with the co-host mostest, Mr. Paul Laces Out Williams.
Guten Tag.
And fresh from writing what will only be described as one of the finest wrestling podcasts around, the host of the Getting Over podcast, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Stuart Woodmansey.
What an introduction! Thank you very much, sir.
I've been taking introduction classes. I feel that the expense laid out by the CookieCast podcast is paying off. These classes are paying for themselves. So you be the judge. That's right, though. It is NFL podcast time. So there was a guest situation this week. I was like, right, let me get immediately on to find out who the guest for this week is, and was immediately hit with the stark reality that there was no guest this week because this week is special. It's the podcast derby this week. The CookieCast team takes on Edward Hilarious. That's right, it's host versus co-host to the death.
I mean, I'm pretty sure by Paul's face that wasn't in the contract.
Yeah, I definitely didn't sign up for that. Maybe a quick skirmish or something like that, or a couple of scrapes and stuff like that, but not to the death. A couple of limbs off, maybe, but you know.
So, chops at dawn. Fantastic. I'm reliably...
Knife edge chops at dawn.
I'm reliably informed. It's not only the host podcast derby. It is actually a multitude of podcast host derbies, because I believe Stuart Woodmansey has taken on host of the Pursuit of Happiness podcast, Matthew Moore, this week. I mean, how this has happened, I do not know. But it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So, let's get cracking. Let's get down to it. Let's get into week of the 2021 NFL season. There's been some ups and downs this week in all manner of ways. There have been players who have stepped away from the game. I believe there has been quite a severe motor vehicle accident which has caused some problems. And as ever, there is that team should absolutely win this game, and then they didn't. Tampa Bay. But we'll get to that one in a minute. I mean, who saw that? I predicted a game this evening as part of the pick'ems, and I was like, shit, I've sent the wrong game through to Paul. I was like, right, I'm going to text him and I'm going to say, oh, I'm sorry, I've sent you the wrong team on my prediction. Can you change it? And then I went, do you know what? No. Because every week in, week out, let's say, I don't know, like there's a team that gets decimated by injury, who somehow go on to beat Super Bowl champions that are captained by the GOAT of American football. So then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm leaving it as it is. So, rather than me teasing and ruining what actually happened in the last week of the American football season, Paul, let's talk last week's football.
Well, Andrew, as the viewers and listeners may be aware, last week we technically didn't have a guest, so it was the job of everyone's favourite non-podcaster to step up to the plate and give us her picks for the week's games. That's correct. It was the second appearance, if you will, during the season of Amy Brinton. She gave us some picks. Some of them were what could only be described as strange, and some were rather inspired, as it turned out. But we'll just go on a whole. So, unfortunately for the guest, she did only get 8 out of 15 games correct, which was enough for 3rd place. However, there is no 2nd place this week, as it is a tie for 1st. Both myself and Andy getting 9 of 15 picks correct, and therefore splitting this week's point.
That feels. I don't want to put us down in any way, but that feels low.
9 out of 15.
Yeah.
I had to double check, but it was definitely correct. So, you went for the Cardinals, whereas I had the Packers. Sensible picking, you see. We all got let down by the Browns and the Bengals. We both had the Chargers to beat the Patriots, whereas Amy went for the Patriots.
She did right there.
Both me and Amy picked the Saints, whereas you picked the Buccaneers. Just saying, bruv. There's a couple more in there that were questionable picks. We both picked the Falcons to win, and they didn't. But yeah, 9 out of 15, so a split point for this week, which means that the overall scores move to the guest with 1 point, Mr. Andrew Cook with 2 points, and maintaining the 3-point cushion is my good self with 3 points.
Okay, that's fine. I can work with that. So, can our guest this week do better? He looks like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, and rightly so. Anyway, if we're talking last week, as we have, Stu very kindly said, do you know what? One podcast is not enough for me. I'm going to get all over the guest seat this week for Laces Out. Just a little warm-up for him before he really dives in. So, there is no season-long prediction this week. I week in, week out ask if I can have my back, and I'm told no. So, what can you do about it? What we can do about it is talk more about last week in the form of some stats. Stats Mistress, torn ACL out for the season. But that doesn't stop those stat fingers getting us the stats from the tinterwebs. More importantly, from Nate Davis from USA Today. I have shared the wealth with these gentlemen so that you lovely people don't have to listen to my terrible voice for more time than you have to. See, there you go. You see, even the audience is agreeing with me. Something the stats mistress did bring up that I've a quick look have found isn't in the stats is that she would like a mention of the genius of whoever it is that decided to do their pumpkin in line with the Aaron Rodgers meme where he's lying on his side looking like, I mean, he looked like he was in some kind of Halloween costume. He does not look well. I don't know if it's intentional.
He has just been nailed, by a defensive tackle.
I just mean in general, he doesn't look like a well man.
It's that straggly long hair of his, isn't it?
But it's the face.
Doesn't suit the clear dirty man contest that he's self-imposed upon himself.
It's very, very strange, if you ask me. Anyway, she wanted us to mention the genius that was the person that decided to do their pumpkin in the style of Aaron Rodgers lying on the ground. Anyway, one thing I will say is I've looked through the stats as I have sent stats to these two gentlemen, and what I will say is the stats are healthy this week. Like some big old stats. The only way to find out what those stats are is to get stuck in. I'm getting heckled over here, boys. I'm getting heckled. Just trying to get. So, stat number 1 for week 8. I had a feeling it was week 8, but I didn't want to, get it wrong. So, going to mix it up a little bit. Going to change it around. Paul, why don't you give us your stats?
Well, it's always good to start with the sort of the big news of the week, isn't it? So we'll dive straight in with. It looked on Sunday like the AFC South was just about wrapped up. The Titans at 6-2, building a 3-game lead and securing the season sweep of the second place Colts. However, the Titans received grim news on Monday, learning that 2-time NFL rushing champ Derrick Henry, currently leading the league with 937 yards and 10 touchdowns on the ground, and also owns the most yards from scrimmage total, 1,091, may miss the rest of the regular season after breaking a bone in his foot. They did say on, I think it was Move the Sticks or something on the NFL Network, that his time frame for recovery puts him right about being healthy for when the playoffs would start. So if they can basically just navigate the choppy waters of the rest of the season and somehow manage to get into the playoffs, they'll basically have a fresh Derrick Henry for everyone to just absolutely shit themselves about, which will be nice.
They'll never make the playoffs without Derrick Henry.
I won't be surprised, because bear in mind the Colts have got to be at least one game ahead of them just to beat them in the division, because they've beaten them twice now. So they do have that in the back pocket. They've basically got 3 games, technically 4 over the Colts. So stranger things have happened.
Has he got a book out?
I believe his rap album will drop momentarily,
and then he'll be going on top.
Of course. Following Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray's 2-interception game against Green Bay, against whom he also suffered a sprained ankle, it's worth asking who's emerged as the league's MVP frontrunner. With Murray come back to the pack and Derrick Henry getting hurt, Dak Prescott, Rams QB Matthew Stafford, Bucks QB Tom Brady, and Baltimore Ravens QB Lamar Jackson, the 2019 MVP, all have stronger resumes by comparison. Neither Stafford, Murray, nor Prescott has ever won the award. Brady hasn't been MVP since 2017, so he's clearly overdue to win it a fourth time. And let's not discount Aaron Rodgers, the reigning MVP and a guy playing ruthlessly efficient football. 1,761 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, 1 interception, 114.1 passer rating since that Week 1 dud in Jacksonville against the Saints. Halloween seems like the appropriate time to state the defending NFC East champion Washington football team, which was a combined 6 for 19 on 3rd and 4th down on Sunday, had 2 field goals blocked, was 0 for 2 in the red zone, and turned the ball over twice in a 17-10 loss to the Denver Broncos. Amy will be wounded, no doubt. I don't really get this bit. Needlessly wasted year. I'm assuming it means it's a needlessly wasted year after the last place Washington football team, 2-6, botched its opportunity in the off-season to continue progressing the franchise. However, Sunday was also a last hurrah for the Broncos, who made a shocking move Monday by agreeing to trade linebacker Von Miller to the Los Angeles Rams, because their defence didn't need any more help, did it really? I mean, they were really struggling, you know. So they've now got, I'm not going to say it because it might come up later on in the stats, but if it doesn't, I'll put my hand up and I'll bring it up. Atlanta quarterback Matt Ryan, the guy covered in blood on Halloween, following an incident with cleats on the field on Sunday. They actually covered it on Red Zone as well, didn't they? They were like, "Yeah, that's legit blood. That's not makeup. That's nothing like that." And finally, for my section, if quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is the San Francisco 49ers' new red zone threat, 2 rushing touchdowns in Sunday's win against the Bears, why'd they need Trey Lance? Questions just keep coming.
Now that I'm not getting abuse from the cheap seats, I will give my stats, and then it'll be over to our guest for the week. Strap in, kids. These are some juicy stats. With the Arizona Cardinals suffering their first loss of the season Thursday, the final team to taste defeat to the Green Bay Packers, the 2021 campaign looks as wide open as ever. The NFC now has 3 1-7 teams: Cardinals, the Packers, and the Los Angeles Rams, with the reigning champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers lurking at 6-2 following Sunday's surprising loss to the New Orleans Saints, and the resilient Dallas Cowboys checking in at 6-1 after their Sunday night triumph in Minnesota without injured quarterback Dak Prescott. A compelling second half of the regular season is already taking shape. 7 days after a convincing win in Baltimore, Cincinnati succumbed to the lowly New York Jets 34-31 to fumble away the top spot for now in the overall AFC standings, while ceding first place in the AFC North to the idle Ravens. Let's award ample credit to Jets quarterback Mike White, who was making his first professional start in place of injured rookie Zach Wilson. White passed for 3 touchdowns, 37 completions, most ever by a player in their first NFL start, 405 yards. Only Cam Newton, 422 in 2011, had more in his first start, and no New York Jets quarterback has posted as many in 2 decades. While sparking what has largely been a lifeless New York offensive, one that posted its initial first quarter points of the season Sunday, maybe White keeps this job for a minute. Coach Robert Saleh didn't dismiss the possibility.
Yeah.
Not to mention that number 5 jersey recently reacquired veteran Joe Flacco might want it back. There he is. Joe Flacco's number 1. Just when you thought Detroit was primed to break through with its first win of 2021, the Lions get blown out 44-6 by a Philadelphia Eagles team that has lost 5 of 6 games entering Sunday and was missing several key players. Could the first franchise to go 0-16 in 2008 also be the first to go 0-17? I said on Sunday, I honestly see this being the case, that they will actually go 0-17. What I believe is my final start. Indianapolis Colts quarterback Carson Wentz, who led the NFL with a career worst 15 interceptions in 2020, while with the Eagles has only thrown 1 in 2021 going in Sunday. None of the past 5 games, before hosting a pair of horrifying picks. One resulting in a touchdown, the other setting up the Tennessee Titans' game-winning field goal in an overtime loss. Stu, I believe you are up to deliver some delightful stuff.
4 more from me. So we'll start for me with Saints quarterback Jameis Winston suffered a serious knee injury on Sunday. News emerged on Monday that Winston tore an ACL and damaged an MCL, ending his promising 2021 campaign prematurely. Saints are currently 5-2 with a solid grip on the NFC's second wildcard spot, but resetting under centre at the midpoint of the season is suboptimal to say the least. Brees shot down any notion that he might come out of retirement during NBC's Sunday Night Football telecast, so expect Taysom Hill and or Trevor Siemian, who relieved Winston with Hill still recovering from a concussion, to take the baton from here. 4th round rookie Ian Book, who has been prematurely compared to Brees, might also get a look at some point. Halloween was terrifying for kickers. Atlanta's Young-Ho Koo, Denver's mustached Brandon McManus, and Chicago's Cairo Santos suffering their first misses of the season after all had been perfect on field goals and extra points. I fully believe that was Scott Hansen's jinx, because he mentioned that right at the start of Red Zone and then they all missed. Sticking with the kickers, incidentally, why don't more punters cross-train as place kickers and vice versa? Specialists are infamous for their low-key practice weeks, yet the Steelers were lucky to survive Sunday's lurch when kicker Chris Boswell suffered a concussion trying to pass the ball on a fake field goal. Rookie Presley Harvin III had no experience as a kicker, and it showed when he tried to kick off, plus the fact Pittsburgh only went for 2-point conversions on the pair of touchdowns scored following Boswell's injury. And finally, Falcons wide receiver Calvin Ridley, who's missed 2 of the team's last 3 games for previously unstated personal reasons, has become the latest athlete to take a pause whilst focusing on his mental health. Here's hoping that he gets better soon.
I thought it was, obviously they made a point about reading out what his statement is. I think nowadays statements are issued through Twitter. And I mentioned, might have been off air, that I mentioned that in my my mini league I actually had Calvin Ridley in the lineup, so took 0 points off the back of that. But I thought it was an interesting thing. They were saying what was going on before they then went on to show the statement that he'd released. Interesting, very interesting that he's clearly felt in a position, comfortable enough in a position to be able to say, I love the game, but my mental health needs to come first, and taking time away from the sport that you love to focus on your mental health. Big statement. So yeah. Hopefully we see him again soon.
So that point that I was going to make when it came to the Von Miller trade was that the Rams now have the guy who leads the league in sacks since entering the league since he was drafted, and another guy who leads the league in sacks since he was drafted. So I think, is it combined, him and Aaron Donald have got around something like 220 sacks between two of them. So, yeah, in fact, I was going to say I don't know who the Rams are playing next. I could just look at my book. Let's just put it this way. It's a good thing that Derrick Henry was injured last week, because if he wasn't, he certainly would have been this week when he goes up against the Rams. So, yeah, that's probably not going to be pleasant play for anyone that goes up against them.
It just feels weird. Like, to me, like Von Miller and the Broncos, he's like a cornerstone of the Broncos. To see that trade come up was like, what? It was so weird.
I sent a text to my friend who was a Broncos fan. I was just like, so they've basically just given up then for the next couple of seasons, have they? He was like, what do you mean? I was like, they've traded Von Miller away. He was like, they must think that the guy they've acquired from the Rams like last week is like, the next big thing or something like that. I was like, no, that's not how it works. When you've got a monster on your defense, you don't trade him away unless you're thinking, yeah, we're not going to do anything for the next couple of years here. There's no point in just wasting him and stuff like that. So it's a bit, yeah. If I was a Broncos fan, I'd be a bit annoyed that they're kind of waving the white flag. But fair play to them for saying that they obviously don't think they're anywhere near going for like a championship. So they're allowing him to go to a team that potentially might be. So let's see how we get on.
Indeed. So there we go. That kind of puts week 8 behind us, and that surely means that we look forward to week 9 of the season. I believe we've got more buys. Going to go out on a limb and say the Seahawks are one of them, because I know for a fact that not the Rams, the Bucks are on bye. Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing the Seahawks.
No, I've got a player.
That was a start about Russell Wilson, that he could be back after their bye, which is obviously this week. So he could, in theory, be back.
He's posted a picture of the pin is out. So I think that would suggest that he's basically nearly there with his recovery.
There you go. Amy will be thrilled. She doesn't have to listen to the Washington football team this week. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Detroit Lions, and the Seattle Seahawks are on the bye.
She'll be pleased. We'll all be pleased. We don't have to watch the Lions get destroyed after yet another week.
I was going to say, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, Lions fans are just like absolutely sort of just like going wild. Like, yes, we don't lose this week. They also don't win or tie, and they just have to sit there.
It's also ruined one of my fantasy football things of finding which of the players on my bench are playing against them and moving them in. Can't do that this week.
No! But yes, a new week obviously brings new picks and new predictions. So, we start Thursday Night Football in Indianapolis, where the previously unheralded Jets are travelling to take on Indianapolis and the Colts. No surprises. We're all going with the hometown team, and we've all picked the Colts to get the win there. Then we move to the 6 o'clock Sunday games. We've got the Browns at the Bengals. We've all gone for the Bengals. Browns a bit of a slide. Not looking great at the minute.
There's this thing, isn't there, about Baker that they keep talking about, that he's technically injured.
So he's torn the labrum in his non-throwing shoulder. So in theory, yeah, he's playing through an injury, basically. So, but obviously it's obviously manageable because for the fact that it's his non-throwing shoulder. So
yeah,
we'll just have to see.
Surely that only holds up as long as he doesn't take a massive hit, and given how things have gone for them recently.
But he did, didn't he? He took a hit on Sunday.
Yeah, he was basically running, and he basically was out of bounds, and someone shoved him, and everyone was, and all the Browns players were absolutely mental because they were like, "What are you doing?" And then I think it was Tony Romo was on the call for CBS. And I think him and Jim Nantz were both like, "Ooh, Baker's not happy." And then he just got up and then he just basically ran on the side and was like, "First down." And they were like, "Oh no, he's just a bit animated." So I thought that was quite funny. But yeah, they need to do something quick, otherwise their season's going to go up in smoke, pretty much. Next up, we've got the Falcons travelling to the Saints. Shock horror, we've all gone for the Saints in that one. And the same with the Broncos at the Cowboys. We're all going for the home team there. So far, it's been a bit of a homer fest here. However, that does not continue with our next game. We've got the Patriots travelling to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Both you two have gone for the Panthers to continue the win streak. I've gone for the Patriots. Definitely a 50-50 game for me. Next up, we've got the Vikings travelling to the Ravens. We've all gone for the Ravens. Bills at Jags. We've all gone for the Bills. Oh dear. Next up, it's the game that no one wants to watch. It's the 1-6 or 1-7 Texans versus the 1-7 Dolphins. Oh, good Lord. This is one of those games where you couldn't pay people to watch this.
Or they would put it in London.
So bad. And the trade deadline apparently has now passed, and Deshaun Watson is still a Houston Texan. So that's quashed all sort of theory that he's going to be Miami's new quarterback. So let's see if anything comes out in this week about that, with them two playing each other. Next up, we've got the Raiders at the Giants. We've all gone for the Raiders. Oh, spoiler alert! The next 5 or 6 games, we've all picked the same team. So there'll be a lot of similar scoring in it. Raiders at Giants, we've got the Raiders. Chargers at Eagles, we've all gone the Chargers. Packers at Chiefs, we've all gone for the Packers. I mean, I don't think a week goes past where we don't mention the Chiefs. Something's definitely not right. Mahomes threw another interception last night, and I think that makes 4 games in a row, and it's his worst run ever as a starter.
Did you see the thing where Edelman was going through what the Chiefs need to do to address the issues that they've got? Like, Edelman just rattled through all of this stuff, and he was just saying, like, as a team, and this will sound really weird because they do play really bad. It was like, but as a team, they're playing really badly. It's like, you've got this whole thing where they have the defense on the field far too much of the time. You need to have your offense on the field a lot more so that the defense can just try and hold it a bit. And he just went through, like, there was like these 4 points to success for the Chiefs. Something is wrong with that team.
Certainly is, but it's that sort of thing where all they need to do is basically just, as long as they can keep themselves as one of the 7 teams that are in the playoffs, they're always going to have a chance. So we'll just watch this space, I suppose. Last few games to go through. We've all got the Cardinals against the 49ers. We've all got the Rams against the Titans. And then we've all gone for the Steelers to beat the Bears. And that, my friends, is the end of that week's picks.
So were there all that many differences this week?
Nope. I've picked the Patriots where you've both picked the Panthers, and then there's one There's one difference in the Texans-Dolphins, I think. So between the three of us, no two have gone for the exact same picks. So in theory, there should be a winner. But there won't be.
Famous last words now.
It'll be like a three-way tie on like two out of 14 games or something like that.
So there we go. Picks are in. Stats are done. Games reviewed. It's basically it in a nutshell. That's it right there. All that's left to do is for me to ask these two gentlemen whether they have any other business to discuss with you lovely people. Stu.
I imagine there'll be loads of trades that have gone through, but too many to mention at this particular point.
I'd seen some bits and bobs, nothing that was really nothing as big as the Von Miller sort of thing.
No.
Just bits and bobs here and there.
On the Von Miller note, I'd like to go on record as to thank Paul for publicly putting the kiss of death on their defence, as they are sat in my fantasy lineup. So thanks very much for that, Paul. Always.
Don't you worry about it, my friend.
Wonderful stuff. Right, well there we go. That's week 8 in the bag. Week 9 prepped and ready to go. Going to be kicking off Thursday night football, and don't we love it? Join us next week where we review the games that we've just previewed and talk more NFL football. Something I realised earlier today, we are now in the Thanksgiving Day slide. So as we slide steadily towards Thanksgiving, and then we all know what comes after that. Stu's favourite time of the year. The end of November.
Sorry, I thought it was podcast bingo time where Andy was going to go, season's over. Season's pretty much over.
I was, but then I realised that I could take it in a different direction, which I did. There we go.
Mean.
That's that.
Very mean.
That's that. Join us next week, and until then, it's goodbye from these guys. It's goodbye from me, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Toodle-pip.
So there you go. What do you think to that? Big thank you to Stu for coming on as our guest. Big thank you to the co-host for being the co-host with the most. What do you reckon is going to happen in the games this week? Which is going to be the surprise game when nobody predicts a winner? If you're checking us out, then do subscribe. It's great. You can also check out our website. It's little, but it packs a big punch with all those social media links and email links for you to be able to drop us a line. That's it for this one. Till next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.